Hello again, time for a new Gukesh game here, and we are here at the Budapest Olympiad in 2024. This was Gukesh's greatest tournament performance ever. He had a tournament performance of 30.56, which I understand is the second highest performance like ever. So he played on first board on for India, and actually United States of America was higher rated than India, but it was a great success, and it was mainly because of Gukesh dominance on the first board. As we can see here, he defeated many strong players here. We have chosen 4 games from this tournament, where he defeats VG from China, Param Magsudlu from Iran, Fabiano Caruana from USA, and Feduseev, who I don't know. He's a Russian first, but he moved somewhere because Russia cannot play the Olympiad because of their illegal invasion of Ukraine, of course. So I had some fears here that he played a lot of draws in the 2 last tournaments and didn't play so good. Now here, when he fought not only for himself, he also fought for his country, India, and also for his friends. I met Gukesh in the European Club Cup, which is the next tournament Gukesh played after the Olympiad, and he seemed very happy and talked a lot with the other Indian kids. So he seemed very friendly, and of course he's very happy now when he's going to play the World Championship match and become very, very rich in 1 month's time. So let's look at the game here. So India is playing China. Liren is also from China, played the Olympiad, of course. But they put VG on first table instead of Liren, and it was, I think, because Liren did not want to play Gukesh right now. He thought that he probably thought that it would be better not to play Gukesh, to not get like not lose a game and get bad conference or something like that. So what happened was that they put VG on first board for China instead, and VG is of course a very strong player. So we will have an interesting game here against Gukesh. Liren is also, VG is also a very attacking player, so it will be a nice sharp game here probably. So here first VG wants to play maybe the Knight of system or the Dragon or something like that, but Gukesh wisely does not want to play such a theoretical game, so he decides to play Knight c3 and Knight f6. VG again invites white to play d4 and play the Knight of system, but then Gukesh plays like this, and now VG has enough, so he prevents d5, d4, and now it becomes a bit more like a Spanish game than a Sicilian game, because often in Spanish black does c5. So it and Gukesh now puts the bishop here outside the pawn chains. That's a normal move here, and black played here, and that's fine. And here, interestingly, VG allows this exchange. This is kind of like a bit of a weak square here, so it's normal for white to try to trade this knight, maybe play around the knight like this then. But VG decides to allow it, and the computer also thinks that you can allow it, so it's no big deal. So we have a position like this, and VG decides to expand here on the queen side a bit. And now he starts an interesting plan. Here his plan is to play g6, bishop here, and then f5, and yeah, it's just again a normal move here to have the king not on g8 if he wants to do that maneuver. It's much harder for white to find a plan here. Black is pretty solid. None of the pawn breaks are tempting for white. So white, it's hard for white to find a plan. And as we will see here, when Gukesh decides to do something active here, the computer doesn't like it. So he should just have maybe waited here to see if he can get some opportunities. So they play careful moves here, and now black is ready to play f5. There is potential for black to play f5, f4, g5, and do like a King's Indian attack here on the king side. So to not allow that, white plays like this. Actually, there was like this move possibility to trade some pieces. It would be good for white to trade some pieces. So this looks actually like correct move. He has to go back, and yeah. Actually here it's actually some problems here for black. He has to go here, has to check, take. This looks fine for white, because what will happen in the game is that actually black will get the better position here soon if he would have played correctly. So instead white tries to play knight g5, bishop g8, and here white makes a move that the computer does not like. It's easy to understand why he takes. He's a bit afraid of black playing f4, and then when he goes back start this King's Indian attack here. But the computer is not so worried about that, and I don't think that's I don't think that f5 and attacking like that, I don't really think that could work, because it's relatively easy for white to start trading pieces, but at least black would have an active plan then. So some slow move would have been better here, but instead Gukesh takes, and then he plays f4 to prevent black from playing f4, but the computer does not like it, because as you can see black is already much better here, because he has this strong pawn sacrifice here with c4. This is a pawn sacrifice, but now black does a very bad move here, so white gets much better after this one. Correct here would have been to play here. He has to go back, and then simply just to get the bishop pair. So you can see here computer already likes black a lot. White is up a pawn, but black has a bishop pair and potential to get some play. If the knight moves, there is some potential to expand in the center. So the computer likes black here, especially the pawn on. When the pawn gets to e4, it's a bit hard for white to like do knight f3, because then d5 can come. So black definitely has enough play for the pawn here, but instead he makes a positional blunder here. He takes on f4. First it looks fine, like he wants to open the position for his bishop pair, but what will happen is that all these pawns, instead of having like a protect passed pawn on e4 that would have been strong, especially in the endgames, all the black pawns are very weak now. And now he does that maneuver, knight a5, knight b3, but yeah, it's a big difference. Like it's like a top 2 pawns difference here. We should see if black would have been 1 pawn better if he didn't take an f4 first, but now white will get like 1 pawn better position. Correct here for black was not to play here, but it was to put the knight here. The obvious idea is that this knight basically can't be taken, because that would just improve black's pawn structure. He would take with the pawn, and this pawn would become very, very strong. So then this knight is like in a central position where it can't be can't be attacked, and there is also possibility here to go for there is some chances here to trade to an opposite colored bishop like this. Let me show you here. Check. Just to illustrate, like this kind of a position, it's good for white of course, but maybe black can defend it. The computer already thinks that it's a bit bad here. Another way to play was to play rook e8 first, keeping some more options open. Okay, so instead he did knight a5, and he did this plan, but it's not good for black, because you can see white is already better here. He is like the pawn on f4 is lost, but here white makes a big mistake here, at least an inaccuracy, because he takes this pawn, there was no hurry to take that pawn, and allows black to take the pawn on b2. And when the pawn on b2 is gone, like white's winning chances to win with the pawns on the queen side is gone, and this bishop that was just attacking into a pawn chain suddenly gets very active. So black is equal after that. The simple rook f2 was correct just to defend here. But he played a worse move, he played like that. And now it's no longer possible to defend the pawn. For example, rook here doesn't work because bishop here, I think. Yeah, it's bishop here. And it's a pin. So this pawn is lost. This doesn't work either because this take and it's pretty equal then. So instead, white has to give up e2, and with that his advantage here. So white decides to go for an endgame, and this endgame it will be better for white because he will be one pawn up because he can take this one, and then here. But it looks to me that this should be a pretty easy draw. Not many pawns left. The bishops are active. Black played a5 here, and that's a fine move that works, but also just taking here, playing an endgame like this just looks like this pawn shouldn't be able to do anything. And the only problem for black is what will happen in the game, that white will get this annoying pin. That's the main worry for black basically. But he decided to keep the pawn to keep some winning chances for himself with this pawn. When this pawn is gone, there is basically 0 winning chances for black. But it leads to a complicated tactical sequence here, which works for black for many ways. But the way black plays it, he will get into a worse endgame where he just doesn't have much potential. So let's look at this. So this one is like a problem here. It's not a big problem because there are 2 ways here or many ways for black to defend, but he threatens the bishop, threatens to go here and win this one. So there are 2 ways here, and one of them is to check. Basically, so you can go here, 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 and pin this one back, so he can't take it. So here he can. This is actually what happens, and it becomes this endgame, which is fine for black, but he will lose it because white can just play on like forever here. So it would have been better for black to not allow that, basically, I think. So instead, what he could have done is that he could have gone here. So now it looks very bad for black because of this this bishop is lost, but black has this annoying check here, so it works tactically. The point is, like, if he goes here, it's like a check, and here, and it's defended. So basically, and if he will go here, then just check first, and then it's the same thing. So he has to go here if he wants to win. But then white can check here, and obviously you can't do this one because you just win here. So you have to go here, and then this one defends here. So this is also equal. White can try this one to try to get some tactics here, but it actually works for black. I looked at this. Looks a little bit dangerous, but actually it's no worry actually. For example, let's look at this again. Because the rook is basically defended, so there is never any tactics like that. So I think bishop d2 would have been an easier draw, but the computer thinks this is also fine here, of course, but because the rook is like a lone rook is strong. Like if the opponent doesn't have any rook or queen, then like a lone rook is extremely strong. It's as good as two knights, even when black has this pawn weakness here. But it will require somewhat accurate play here, because white can move around, and there is always these risks of forks and tactics with the knight basically. So so let's look here. So it's obviously good for black to have like white king on the first rank here, so it's no problem yet. So let's just go on here and see where like the problem was. So so they're just moving around here, and it's still fine here. So soon I think black, like for example this removing the rook here, allowing white king to be a little bit more active, was probably not the best, but it seems fine anyway. And actually white doesn't even go up with the king, so that's fine. So here somewhere basically I think black is starting to lose the thread here, because he will try to trade, he's probably bored and tries to trade pawns here, but white gets a very strong active passed pawn here. So he's going here, just like any move else, just waiting would have been fine. This is also fine, but for example going back to the rook to h1 here would be fine. But what he does here I don't really like, even if it's still a draw here, because there will be like a trade of pawns, but this f pawn, as we will see in the game, it will have a lot of potential being helped with the knight. If you compare like a position like this with a position like this, it's like a dream for white. He got like a passed pawn and good winning chances. And we can see here already now, if both players would play the best here, it was already black already had to play accurately, like rook a1 for example looks right, because now even if white didn't see it, it was already good for white here by knight here. This is pretty complicated, but the point is point is basically that the two knights and the pawn, it can like escort the pawn down here. Like for example, here he can't take here because check and the pawn is queening. So he could go for this. This, like trying to get this in endgame, is like something that black should have tried. And I don't have this, it doesn't look like there is like a base on leashes. But this kind of position would be interesting. I think this probably is a win for white actually. Like let's say if one pawn is gone, white, I think the winning plan should be like this. White should win one pawn, for example this one. Then he should force the king, black king, to a corner with knight and king, for example this corner. And then when this king is like trapped here, he will like use his knight somewhere to checkmate before black can get a queen here. So this would have been an interesting endgame to watch, and I think the situation is already so hard for black here that he should go for that if he has the chance, but he won't in the game. So it's still a draw now, but it's black has to be precise here. So here, this was something I looked at. This is quite an interesting position here, that there is only one way to draw here, because what happens here now, there is like already threat of here and like winning this one, and or in this case he can, this one is extremely important that he takes this one, because in this endgame that happens here, like if this knight was here, it's apparently a drawn position, but because he can get in a knight check here, something like this, and then this very good defensive move here. And here, this is a classic case here. This knight next to the king covers many squares where the queen could check. So this is actually, yeah, it's a winning for white here now. So because of that, if we go back here, only drawing move here is to check here. And then instead of h3, like harass this knight structure, for example, something like this is still a draw. Over here then. Now it's a big difference, because this is a better way for black here. If he gives this check here, so he can't go here because this will come with that check. So he has to do something else, for example here, and now here. And if he tries to do like the same in the game, now the king can cover. But if he would have tried that here, the king can no longer cover here, because I can just take here. If we compare to here, the king can cover, but here like it's no longer, sorry. If he does like this, then the king can no longer cover here, because you can take like this. The pawn will be lost here. Yes, it's a little bit complicated, but I hope you get the point here that black has to be very precise. So here, of course, knight f3 is winning, and what he plays is a draw, but then black blunders again here. Now he again got the chance to check first. Like king here is no good because he will just win the pawn and go back. So he has to check. And wherever he goes here, for example, if he goes here, then there is this nice check here. And if you take with a knight, you can go here and then queen next. And of course, if you take with the queen, king, it's a queen. So maybe here, and this is a difference here, because imagine this knight is here instead, then he would have this mating attack here with the knight e5 and then back here, which yeah, for some reason is a better placement for the knight. I don't really understand it, but I thought it was quite an interesting, complicated position here. So here he had to check first, basically. Only chance to check first and play this endgame here. Because yeah, there is no forced, maybe black thought this is hopeless, but actually there is no forced win for white here. But he played here, which this is obviously not gonna work because the knight just takes the pawn and you just lost your best pawn here. But it's still interesting here that here there is only one move that wins. This is also pretty sick that there is only one move that wins here, and it's king d2. So for example, why can't he do king c2, for example? And the reason is here. And check. Here he will take here. But what will happen now when he do king d2? When he takes here, check, he has the possibility to cover this square. So then the question is like, why couldn't he do like king e2? Then it would be like this, and then actually black is actually winning because he's winning that one with a check. So only one move that's winning, and of course Gukesh saw that. So now he can't go here because it's a fork, of course. So he tries to check. And yeah, it's running out of checks. And something like this doesn't work because of this. And he can of course cover like this. So I thought that was an interesting endgame. It was very well played by Gukesh. All this endgame was very, very well played here, I think. So this is first game here in the Olympiad, and we're gonna look at these 3 more games.